So depression, it's a big word, and has a lot of meanings behind it, I would say that much. And the people who suffer from it probably think that I'm just another teenage boy who's going to sit here and slag off depression. I promise I'm not going to do that. I wouldn't be running a mental health brand if I was going to do that. However, there is one thing I'm definitely not doing, and that is not going to tell someone who is depressed how to make themselves feel better or, you know, what to do. Because I think there's advice I can give from a personal perspective and doing research, but something as severe as depression, even if I did give the top advice I can find online or whatever I think the advice should be, I feel like it wouldn't help a person with depression, because depression does kind of take over your life so much to the point where they're probably not even watching these videos. And even if I tell them what to do, I don't think it's going to help that much. And I don't really want to be saying something that might be deemed wrong or inaccurate, or, you know, I might just get taken the piss out of for saying. So I'd rather not. Instead, the way I'm going to try and support people with depression, which is not easy in the best of scenarios, is talk to their friends. People who have friends who have depression. I'm talking to you. If you are watching this right now and you have a friend who's severely depressed or is coming down with depression, keep watching, because I found some valuable tips for you, and I think I've got some good advice on how you can cope with it. Also, I currently have a friend who has depression, so I kind of know what I'm talking about. So, let's jump into this video on depression, and I'm going to try my best to give you guys some tips, the friends of people who have depression anyway, on how you can help out your best buddy. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Focus to Future channel. I hope you guys are having an amazing day. I hope we're all well, safe and happy while the world goes to shit. I know it's hard to stay happy during these periods, but I hope seeing my beautiful self and watching my beautiful videos helps out, because, you know, who else are you going to watch? There's like billions of other channels you could be watching right now, just a hint. But anyway, I hope we are doing okay, because I understand that the world is quite stressful at the moment. So wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I wish you all the best. However, today, I am mainly trying to help out the people who have got friends who do have depression. I'm trying to provide some support for them, and I'm also trying to kind of raise awareness for depression at the same time. So if you're interested in any of that stuff, please stay tuned. If not, please go into the top link in the description and go and watch another video to learn a bit more about me. But apart from that, let's jump into this video and learn some sort of accurate tips. I'm actually kind of scared to say that it was accurate, because I have no idea anymore. Now, just to start this video off, let's just clarify how many people, just in the UK in general, have estimated to have depression. Now, not all these people who the number I'm about to say, are like, you know, just suffer from depression. A lot of them have many other illnesses as well. But this is a generalized thing of how many people generally do suffer from depression. Like an official diagnosis. It's been stamped on their medical records and it's official. So, according to the wonderful internet, there are over 3 million people in the UK currently who are officially diagnosed with depression and are actively receiving treatment for it. Now, let's just clarify that that is only the people who are officially diagnosed and are accurately getting treatment. Can you imagine how many people there would be if we counted all the other fellas who haven't actually gave themselves in to a mental health authority and haven't actually got it on record? There's probably many more. And even if we don't include them people, 3 million people is a lot of people. That's like a good chunk of the UK population. Which is actually pretty sad, and you're going to see why it's so sad in a minute, because I'm going to talk about some of the symptoms of depression and some of the things that really affect them. It's actually kind of depressing just to look at it, really, and my hearts and sympathies generally do go out to these people, because I just can't imagine living a life like that. I wouldn't even be able to sympathise even if I tried. So yeah, today I think we're going to go through a big emotional roller coaster of learning about it, but I am going to try my best to give the best tips I can to their friends so their friends can go and support them in the best way possible. Because if I talk to a depressed person directly, I feel like it's just going to end horribly, and they're probably just going to think that I'm undermining their condition, which I'm not. I know how it is to have a condition and have someone talk to you about that condition, and for you to sit there and think you really don't understand what I'm going through. So I'm going to avoid doing that at all costs. Now, what I'm also going to do, just in case this video really doesn't help anyone out there, is I'm going to leave some links to medical kind of websites that give advice for people who do have depression, just in case you're watching this and you generally do have it. I'm going to leave them websites in the description and kind of hand you over to a mental health professional, because again, I'm not a clinical mental health professional, and me giving advice on something like this is A, probably against the law, and 2, I just don't want to do it because I could come across very wrong. So if you are watching this and you generally do have depression, or there is something more severe going on, please go and use the links in description. Remember that they have been checked by myself and I think they're suitable, so the chances are they're not bad websites. I don't want to be giving advice to someone who has depression, A, because that's against the law, and 2, because the advice I'm giving might not actually help you. No matter how much research I do, I can't confirm that I'm 100% accurate. However, back to the friends of people who have depression. I sympathise with you, first off, because I have like 2 or 3 friends who, one of them is kind of on the way to depression. She's not officially diagnosed yet, but she's on the way there, and the other 2 are officially diagnosed with depression. And seeing these people and what they're like, and kind of growing up with them to a certain extent, has taught me a lot about what it's like to have it, and it's kind of made me realise that it is so difficult to not even just have, but to see. And from a friend's perspective, you really feel very helpless, because you are kind of just sitting there as this happens. You don't really understand how they're thinking, what they're doing, or why they're acting certain ways, but they're kind of just doing it, and there is nothing you can do which is going to solve it. And all you can really do is sit there and try and encourage them and try to support them in the best way you can. And today I'm going to try and give you tips on how to do that the best way possible without kind of making the situation worse. Now, I think the first thing we need to understand is that this is a clinical condition. No matter how good you think you are at mental health or supporting people, or how sympathetic you think you are, no matter how perfect you think you are, a depressed person is not going to look at you as someone who can solve their problems. It's just not going to happen. I am pretty confident in myself that I know enough about mental health to give some tips on this, but the reason I'm not going to is because, again, it's not my role to sit there and tell a depressed person how to be. You know, depressed people, or people with depression, I hate saying depressed people, that makes me look like I'm trying to eye them out, but people with depression are probably not going to like me throwing tips at them, because at the end of the day, I generally don't understand how they feel. I'm kind of just guessing from what I've seen online. So my advice, or my first piece of advice, is to try and not guess, try and do some research and actually get clinical advice before trying to support anyone with depression, because just ranting to them really doesn't help them. Now, let's go through some basic things that depression really does do to you, and how it kind of just makes you a completely different person in some ways. Now, again, this is going to be different for every person with depression, and there are going to be people watching this who are sitting there like, that's not how it's like, but this is what I've gathered from the online and what I've seen from my friends. Now, I think the biggest thing that happens from a friend's perspective is they seem to shut off. you know, you kind of start to notice that over time, like at one point you could have been talking to them every day, things could have been really good, and as time goes on, they seem to just become less and less and less and less social, to the point where you barely even hear from them, and even getting them to talk to you directly is like trying to talk to a brick wall, because most of the time their responses are like, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. But the big mistake people make when that starts to happen, and you know, you start to get these very basic responses, they start to shut off, is completely ditching that person. I see a lot of people do this, that people fall down that route of kind of not really talking to anyone because they have a clinical condition, and their friends kind of just start running away because they think, well, why would I want to hang around with someone who doesn't even want to have a full-blown conversation with me? If you are one of them people, I can tell you now, you do not care about your friend to any extent. Now, I'm not saying you need to neglect your own needs to look after this person, but if you are a genuine friend, you are not going to run away from a person who has depression, I can tell you that. And for people who do have depression, if there's someone in your life right now who you really need beside you but isn't, trust me, they are not the right person for you, and I would not want them next to me if they're not even willing to come to me and try and support me. So please, don't beg for people who are not even going to try. The chances are, if they're running away from you, they probably already gave up. The right thing for you to be doing right now is going up to that friend and being the best friend you can be. You kind of have to push your own needs aside for a second. I'm not saying them all. Obviously, you still need to eat and drink and sleep and, you know, take care of the basic essentials. But in terms of your emotional needs, they kind of need to be pushed aside. You can't be expecting this friend who has now come down with depression to be talking to you often, to be texting you, to be going out to big parties. It's just not going to happen. And I think as a friend, you have to accept that, take that in, and be like, alright, things are going to be a bit difficult for now, but I have to push them needs aside and kind of look after this person because I care for them. Not because they're not providing you your emotional needs, because you genuinely give a crap about them. You've got to remember that people with this condition are probably more lonely than ever. They feel like their world has just crumbled into one, and they're just like, no one understands me. I don't want to talk to anyone right now. This is just horrific. So, you know, you've got to realise that, and from an outside perspective, you've got to be like, okay, I accept that, I understand that, take a step back for a bit, and be that supportive friend that that person with depression wants. Don't try and push anything, don't try and run away, it's just not going to work. A lot of the time in the initial stages of depression, someone will spend a lot of their time just ruminating about their problems. They won't pick up their phone, they won't go on the internet, they won't try and meet up with friends, and definite chance they're probably not feeding themselves correctly. So you've got to take that into consideration when talking to them. The chances are right now they are dealing with a lot of rubbish in their head and trying to get their head around it. So trying to push in them to go and do social activities, it is just not going to work. And please don't try to, because you will ruin your friendship quicker than I can say buck shoo. The best thing you can do right now, especially at the initial stages of depression, is take a step back. Don't run away, but take a step back for a minute. Don't pressure them into anything. Even if that means, instead of going out to these big social things or doing fun stuff, you literally just go to their house, sit in their room with them, and stay in silence for hours with your arm around them or with a hand on their shoulder, showing that you are there to support them, but you're not going to pressure them into anything or, you know, try and force them into anything. Sometimes people at the initial stages of depression also might not even want you there. They might want to be completely left alone. You kind of have to respect that as well. But the chances are, if you're just going to sit there and leave them to their own accord, it might be a helping hand, because it shows them that, you know, you're there to support them, but you're also not pressuring them into anything. It might encourage them a bit more to open up to you just a fraction. It probably is going to take days, weeks and months, but over time it might come along. Next thing is take care of things that they no longer can take care of. Remember that these people are going to be so in their head, they're probably not going to be taking care of other needs and other essential parts of their life. You know, go in and check on their family every so often. Make sure that their family are doing okay. Make sure that your friend is eating and drinking responsibly. Offer to buy them drinks and food. If they're at school, offer to help them with homework. Take care of them needs that they no longer have time to worry about. And make sure that people who are with them are aware that they can't take care of their needs. If there's a teacher begging them to do work or homework, explain to that teacher that things are a bit difficult for them at the moment. I wouldn't advise saying that they've got depression, or unless the person or the mother of the person who's got depression says you can. But you can explain that there's a lot going on at the moment. So yeah, taking care of them basic needs, checking on their family, making sure they're eating, drinking responsibly is just a big help in itself, because that means that person doesn't have to worry so much about it. Next thing is listen. I think we don't do this enough. Step back from the things you want to say or the things you want to gallivant at them and let them just talk to you for hours. Let them rant, let them rip up paper, let them cry in front of you. Do not say a word or unless they ask you for your opinion. The last thing someone with depression wants you to do is to judge them, to give them major advice, to try and push them to do things. The main thing they're going to want you to do right now is to listen, to sit there and be like, you know what, mate, I'm here to respect your opinions and to listen to you and be that helping guide if you want it. Don't try and buff them into a mental health setting. Give them professional help straight away. Chances are it's not going to help them. One of my final tips, and this is a big tip for a friend, is be prepared for the worst. I call this a suicide prevention plan. Make sure you know in the worst case scenarios where they might go and cut themselves severely, where they might try and commit suicide themselves, that you know in them situations exactly what you're going to do and how you're going to deal with that situation effectively. Go and talk to your parents about it. Go and talk to a professional about it. Get the best advice you can so you know if a friend does go and do that, you know exactly what you need to do and how to act on it. It is so important that you don't just think of the basics, you think of things that you can't even imagine happening, because trust me, they very much can happen. And I've had to deal with very intense situations before that were completely out of the blue, where I've had to actually stop someone from committing suicide, which is pretty dramatic. But if I didn't have that suicide prevention action plan with me and I didn't know what I was about to do, it would have probably been a hell of a lot harder. Now, by a suicide prevention action plan, I don't mean anything major. Don't start getting professionals involved or anything. Don't call social services, or unless it's necessary to do so. But if you do feel like it's coming, make sure you know where they might do it or how they might do it or when they're going to do it. Try and get these information out of them, so if they do go and do it, you kind of know where they're going to do it, how they're going to do it, and what they're going to do, so you could try and prevent it. You know, making sure that they don't have blades with them, making sure that if they're going to go and commit suicide, you know where it's going to be, so you can get there as quickly as you can, and even if you can't get there, you can get the police there as quick as possible. You can write this plan down, you can keep this plan in your head, but just have an idea of, if the worst comes to worst, what am I going to do? It's the worst thing in the world, and it will probably mess up a week of your life, but you know what? That week of your life is probably deserved to that person who is struggling right now. Trust me, it's one of the hardest things to do, to sit there and prepare for your friend's death, but it's better than having no plan at all. And my final tip is to look after yourself. You can't be a supportive friend to a person who has depression if you are not looking after your emotional, your physical, and other forms of needs. You just take all these things into consideration. If it means adapting your day-to-day life to fit into supporting that friend, please do so. Don't just forget about yourself, because the minute you forget about your own needs, the chances are you are going to crumble with them, and it's not going to help you. You are going to see some horrific crap while supporting this friend, and the last thing you want to be doing is going away and forgetting about your own needs. Making sure you're eating correctly, making sure you're drinking correctly, making sure you're keeping your well-being and mental health up to date. There'll be support videos on this channel if you want to learn how to do that properly. But again, look after yourself. You can't be a supportive figure to someone who's really struggling if you're not up to date yourself. It's very difficult to do. Anyway, that's all the stuff I can give you on this. This video was extremely difficult to make because it is such a controversial topic. It's a topic of so much meaning and a lot of people have a lot of passion behind it, and the people who do struggle from it are probably going to see this from a completely different point of view to me. But I have gave you my best tips. I've tried to give you my best sympathy, and trust me, I do have sympathy for you guys because I've seen it. I know exactly how these people go through the phases and how bloody difficult it really is. So my deepest sympathies are with these people. Again, if you want clinical advice or you want help, please visit the links in the description. They will help you out a ton. But apart from that, I hope everyone else is well, safe and healthy, and I will catch all you dudes next time. Bye bye.